I'm going to show you how we sew our Spin-E-Fex number 6. This is an 11.5 inch design, which means that from point to point, when we've sewn two of the pattern opposite, it will measure 11.5 inches. This way our design will fit into a 12-inch block, leaving a 1/4 inch around the block, and that makes allowance if the block's a little bit smaller. We don't have to worry about the tip of our design coming over the edge. You will notice on this block I've marked crosshairs on the block, and they are what I'm going to use to guide my template around. I also have lines marked on my tools, and those lines, when I turn the template, will match the crosshairs. I need to bring my threads up at the centre because that's where we're going to start sewing. So I'm going to place my template underneath the foot, move the foot over. I will lower the foot. Now I can see through the hole in the middle the centre of my crosshairs, and I'm going to use my hand wheel to lower the needle. I'm going to bring up those threads from underneath. So I've got the bobbin thread and the top thread, and they've come through to the top. I like to tie these threads off, and we'll discuss that later in another video. So now that I've done that, I'll lower the foot again, bring my needle back down just using the hand wheel. You can use your petal if you have a needle up and down, which will lower the needle and keep it in the down position. So now what I'm going to do is sew around that template, and I'm going to line up my marks on my ruler with the crosshairs on the quilt that I've drawn and start sewing. You can move as quickly as you're comfortable, and when you're starting out, I do suggest that you don't go as fast as you can. When I get to the top, I like to stop at that crosshair mark. That way I don't get a bunching of stitches when I go around the corner. Stop whenever you need to relocate your hands. Work your way around the template, back to the beginning. When we get back to the beginning, we're going to stop with our needle stopping in the centre and keep the needle lowered in that centre position. So the template opposite, so I will just rotate the template, lining up again my crosshair lines and down here, and we'll do the next one. When you're beginning working with rulers or free motion, don't worry about your stitch length so much. You will get that in time. Getting even stitches all the time is just practice. And we stop in the middle again. We will now turn the template over 45 degrees. I'm now going to turn the template 90 degrees, and if we have a look at the size of this template, because it is a large design, when I turn it around here I'm going to collide with the edge of the machine. I can still sew this. All I have to do is turn my fabric. So now I'll be able to sew that template, that petal in here, and here we go. Back to the centre and stop. I'm going to turn the template and do the opposite petal, and I'll just turn the fabric just a small amount. You can move it to get into the position that you're comfortable. We're just riding our ruler foot against the edge of the template. Always adjust your hands when it starts becoming uncomfortable or difficult to hold. Stop in the middle again. I've made a Spin-E-Fex using 4 petals on the Spin-E-Fex. I'm now going to rotate the template again, and this time I'm going to turn my template so that I'm filling in the space between here. And because of the position it is, I will just rotate my fabric slightly. But we're always lining up our crosshair lines. I mark the templates with a number of markings. Those markings give you more use of your template and make it easy to make sure that when you make a design like this, you have a pattern that does reflect opposite from one side to the other. I'm going to do this one. Because it's going to hit the wall of the machine, I will just give the fabric a slight turn. You may notice I'm not using ruler grips on this template, and I've had a fair bit of practice with these, and I put them on some templates. I don't put them on all. This is probably one that I would actually like to put a ruler grip on, mainly because of its size. We're going to do this one now, and I'm just going to turn that fabric again. Adjust your hands when you need to. Back up to the centre. Stop in the middle. And we have one petal left to do. When quilting, you may need to adjust the tension of your machine when you change threads. Different battings will use a different height of the foot. You may go a little bit higher on a thicker batting. But with the Bonina, this is working beautifully. The foot's giving me the guide to my template, and we're now finished. We're back in the centre. As I've been sewing, you may have noticed that we have a key in our template. We could just have a slot that moves over our foot and goes in, but whenever we sew to that slot, we will actually get a bump in our stitching line. So the key is there, so that now if I want to put free motion stitching in here, I can just take the key out and I can now move my template out, goes over the foot, and I can continue stitching with a free motion stitch here. Once I've completed stitching the pattern, I'm going to raise the needle, raise my foot, and now I can bring out my work. And that's one Spin-E-Fex number 6 sewn on a Bonina.